Hello, hello, welcome back to Papo Fluente podcast. One more conversation in English, guys. One more episode. I know it's been a while since I dropped my last one, but we're back. And I'm not alone, guys. I'm not alone. And to be honest, I was looking forward to have this conversation. And before we get started, this is gonna be our first international guest. So,
Oh,
welcome to the podcast, Teacher K. How are you?
thank you. I'm great. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good, and we're just chatting a little bit before getting started. So, it's been like 4 years that we talk to each other, we follow each other on social media, but this is actually the first time we're meeting and having this conversation. So I'm pretty sure it's gonna be great. So before let's get it started. So I usually ask my guests to give a little bit of an introduction. So what's the story? Who is Teacher K? Where you from? Why you're here? So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Okay. As you know, I go by Teacher K on social media. My name is Kayla, Kayla McKeezy, and I'm originally from Toronto. Actually, Ajax. If you're from the GTA, you'll know where that is, but people outside of Canada usually don't know the town I grew up in. So the
Okay.
closest big city is Toronto. So people will say that. But I'm an English teacher. I started teaching English in 2018 in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Here we go.
And yeah, what brought me there actually was not English at all, but it was Samba. I had a passion for Samba dance and I wanted to understand the culture and the context, as well as participate more and get experience, because everything I had been learning was in Toronto. And I was like, this is not enough. So I decided to pack up my bags and move there, and I was making a lot of life changes at the time. I left my previous career in IT, so I was making a bunch of changes and Samba was in there.
Here we go. When was we're gonna talk more about it, but when was that you moved to Brazil? 2018. All right.
Mhm.
Good. And you wait straight to São Paulo, that concrete jungle, right?
Yes.
Big city, right? Good. All right. So I usually have a game that I like to play with my guests, but it's
Okay.
totally up to you. It's optional. You can say, no, Alan, that doesn't sound so good. I don't want to play that. Or you can say, oh, yeah, let's give it a try. So I call
Okay.
it BS or success. So the idea is I'm gonna share some information with you, and you can tell me if you think this is a BS or if it's a success, and you can elaborate on that. You can tell me why you think. Do you want to play the game?
I'm
You're in? All right, good. That's
mhm.
all I needed to know. But let's go. So, the first statement that I have here, ESL students, like English learners, they should sound like native speakers. Is that a BS or success, in your opinion?
BS,
Oh,
BS.
why is that?
BS.
Why?
Well, okay, if you're talking about a native English speaker, no. A
Yeah.
native speaker of your own language, of course. But first of all, I think that it's it's a very difficult goal, especially depending on the age that you start learning the language. So the older we get, the less sounds that we're able to hear. There's even a test on YouTube, a listening test, where depending on your age, you're going to hear different sounds or not hear other sounds. And it's really interesting if you do the test with a group of people of different ages, because the younger they are, they're hearing sounds. And then it's like, the older the person is, they're not hearing certain sounds. And being able to hear different sounds influences your ability to mimic them as well and reproduce them as well. So it's very difficult to acquire an accent in an environment you didn't grow up in, or in an environment you're not exposed to at a certain age. And also, I don't think it's a very useful goal. Not only is it I'm not going to say it's unachievable, because there's always someone who's going to say, oh, but I did it. right? But
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, it's out of reach, and it's not necessary to be an efficient communicator, because there's lots of native speakers who aren't good communicators, but they're native speakers and they have a native English accent. So I think that a lot of energy and motivation can be lost chasing after this goal. And that's why I think it's BS. I think it keeps people chasing something that's not very useful or relevant to them.
Right. Yeah, and as a like I speak English as a second language, as you all can like hear and see, but I'm really proud of my accent, like we're gonna talk about it, but I'm pretty sure you speak other languages and you have
Yes.
accents in those languages, and it is all right. So it's good to have an accent. In fact, this is my opinion. I like to have my accent. I try my best to make sure people know that I'm not a native speaker. So it's all
Nice.
good. Right. So next one, you ready?
Yes, let's go.
All right. English is a diverse language, right? And we need to add visibility to it. So what do you think about it? Is that a BS or success?
Success. Absolutely success.
Wow. Why?
Why? It's okay. There's a lot of things I could say, but first of all, it's just the truth, right? The way we're traditionally taught English, or the way that English is represented, it shows a really narrow view of what the language is. But there's so many speakers, there's so many different cultures, there's so many varieties of the English language that we don't see when we're learning, but they exist. And it also helps to
Mm-hmm.
prepare you for English speaking environments, because a lot of people are under the impression that, okay, I'm going to go to an English speaking country and it's going to be like Friends. Everyone's going to look the same, sound the same, have the same lifestyle. And it's not like that. And I'm sure you know, living in Canada, it's not
Mm-hmm.
like that. You may not even, especially when you first arrive, you may not even hear that many native speakers. You may
Mm-hmm.
find yourself around a lot of non-native speakers, and that's what these environments are like. There's nothing wrong
Mm-hmm.
with that. And it's not that, yeah, it's not that, you're not in the right place. You are in the right place. I think our
Mm-hmm.
expectations have been primed by content that's not real. It's
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood content, it's Netflix
Mm-hmm.
content, it's books made by, one or two companies that have a huge market share, and they're not changing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important, and there's a lot of benefits aside from being prepared. There's a lot of benefits to showcasing the diversity. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
important for everyone to have a voice in English, not just a certain type of speaker or a certain type of accent. We can't, only be accustomed to hearing one type of person speak and devaluing the voice of other people. We
Mm-hmm.
need to learn to value everyone's voices. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
the way we educate in English is a great starting point to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. Just a short story. Like we had, I play soccer, right? So I'm from Brazil. I play soccer. There's nothing I can do about it. But
Nice.
anyways, so we put a team together here in the city that I live, North Bay, and we call this team Nations FC, because we had like players from all like
Nice.
different places, right? We had players from Nigeria, we have players from Egypt, we had players from Jamaica, we had players from
Mm.
Brazil, we had players from Trinidad Tobago, like players from everywhere. And we were India, and we were all communicated in English with these different backgrounds
Mhm.
and these different accents, and that was
Mhm.
just amazing. So that's what was the idea, like bring this diversity, because I was part of a team that there were like 7 Brazilians. So we were all there speaking Portuguese. Half of the team was there speaking Portuguese. Half of the other team was there, like mostly Canadians speaking English. And we couldn't see that, like, you know what I mean? Like we didn't click. So then I decided in my heart,
Mm.
I don't want to live this anymore, I want to I like the chaos, I like this. So let's bring people together and try to make a team. So that's what we did. And we were all communicating
Mhm.
in English, and that was like beautiful to see. It was like one of the best experiences I have lived so far in Canada. And Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, even though I'm like born and raised in Canada, I don't know North Bay. I've never
Hmm.
been. I don't think I'll ever go. But I didn't even know there was that much
Come
diversity
visit.
there.
Come on. Come visit. Come visit. Let's eat some pão de queijo and have some café pilão. Let's go.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, you were talking about North Bay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I didn't even know, there was that much diversity there. I mean, I even have my view of what I think, North Bay would be like or would not be like. And
It's
it's just, okay, okay,
so we are in the middle of this process, you know. I'm the witness. I'm seeing everything going on. You know? It's
okay.
been like 3 years because they have this
3 years
immigration.
already
Yeah,
that you've
yeah.
been there.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, like they started a immigration program, like a
Okay.
pilot program here in the city. So out of
Mm,
the blue, you know, like all of those immigrants from different places are coming to the city. So yeah, and I'm here. So
got it.
yeah,
Okay.
but
Oh,
it's good.
okay, okay, okay.
It's good. It's good. It's good.
Good.
All right, you ready for the next one?
Let's go.
All right. So anyone who studies English can become fluent in just a few months. You think that's a BS or success? All
Okay.
right.
BS.
All right.
BS. BS. BS, but I think that, you can learn something and you can learn some skills and you can
Sure.
definitely learn to speak certain things to a certain degree, but
Hmm.
to be completely fluent like you are in your own native language, no, I don't think so, but I think you can start speaking in 6 months.
It's more like
Mhm.
those marketing things, like follow those simple
Yeah.
steps and you become fluent, like a recipe, like making a cake. Just follow this method and you become fluent in 3 months. You know?
Just like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
easy, right? All right. So
Yeah,
learning
no.
learning English involves much more than grammar and vocabulary. Is that a BS or success?
Success. Okay, why? I'm trying to think where to start with the question, but learning English is so much more than vocabulary and grammar. That's what you
Hmm.
said, right?
Yeah.
Because English is so much more than vocabulary and grammar. There's culture, there's the sociology of it, there's power dynamics, there's history, it's ever changing. I think you can get you can to be able to speak and communicate through grammar and vocabulary, but only that can only do so much. I think in the beginning it's very crucial to be able to form sentences
Hmm.
and to start speaking and communicating. But it's interesting because like for a lot of students, the more advanced they get, a lot of times they self-diagnose and say, or they self-evaluate and say, I need more grammar, I need more vocabulary. But
Hmm.
the more you advance, I think the more communication and cultural understanding is more useful, because
Hmm.
you could know all the grammar in the world, all the vocabulary in the world. You could write better than, I don't know, like the royal British family, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to express yourself the way that you want, or
Yeah.
feel comfortable speaking the language,
Hmm.
or feel like you can reach your goals or assert yourself. And I think that those are a higher priority than just collecting vocabulary and grammar.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I live that. I can say that's really true. Like I made a post like few weeks ago thinking about this. Like sometimes I feel I can communicate in English, I feel that I'm fluent, but like for example culturally, like I'm not fluent yet. There's so much
Okay.
for me to learn, you know, like there's so many things that sometimes people will start talking about some topics that I had no idea. Like I didn't grow
True.
up with these same experiences, and I believe you kind of felt the same in Brazil, right? Like some topics you learn as
Yes.
you go, right?
Yes,
So it doesn't matter how
absolutely.
much you learn of the language, but some topics you need to experience and try to observe and try to like live, right?
Exactly. Yes. And I
Hmm.
think learning how to be yourself in
Yeah.
another language is a process
Oh my God.
because like we've been so trained through school to perform that,
Yeah.
we want to be a good student, we want to get good grades, or,
Hmm.
we want to stand out in our class, but sometimes that means not being yourself. And then you
Hmm.
get out into the real world and you're using the language and it's like you're acting like a person in a book, but or you feel awkward or you don't want to make a mistake. And it's like
Hmm.
once you find a way to be yourself, it's almost like the mistakes don't really matter because you're
Hmm.
just connecting with other people.
Hmm.
And I think I like how you said, culturally you're not fluent yet
Hmm.
because that's its own domain, that's its own competency. And I believe it's the same thing, not I believe, I know it's the same thing for communication as well.
Hmm.
Like with more advanced students I have, we start looking at different communication styles, like actually learning how to communicate in different settings or to have a
Hmm.
different impact rather than just focusing on the pronunciation only, looking
Hmm.
at different styles of communication to achieve a certain goal
Hmm.
rather than trying to be error free.
That's great. Oh my goodness. All right. So my last question for this game: following diaspora learn learning English and sincerely teaching English, is that a BS or success?
Success! Oh
That's
my
a
God!
huge success, right?
Success! Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about those projects, those pages that you have on Instagram. So I don't know if I'm right, but from my understanding, like the diaspora learning English is more focused on learners, like English learners, and sincerely
Mhm.
teaching is more focused on teachers. Is that right? So
Exactly,
okay,
exactly. Diaspora English learning for the
sorry,
first one. That's okay.
diaspora English learning. Yeah.
Yeah. I was about to say isso. I wanted to
There you
say
go.
that. But yeah, now the Portuguese just comes out sometimes, especially
Yeah.
if I'm speaking with a Brazilian, it's like I know you're
Good.
going to get it. Cuz
We'll
you know
get
what?
there.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
save
Go.
my
Oh, you're gonna save your Portuguese? All right. Good.
No, no, I was just going to say sometimes there's some expressions I've learned in Portuguese that I actually like better than English.
Oh yeah.
But we can talk about that
Let's
in a
talk
bit.
about that. All right, but
Yeah.
tell me about the pages. Let's go.
Yes, no, you should absolutely follow them. So, Diaspora English Learning, I started in 2020, which is my own brand of English teaching that focuses on global English references as well as critical thinking when it comes to English language learning. So, a lot of times we only have the choice between British English or American English, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, a few other accents. But my goal is to really show a variety of models, not just for accent, also just narratives, not only looking at things from the same perspective but also learning about things going on in different countries and different people contributing to advancements in the world that we don't usually get to hear about. So that's what I focus on Diaspora English, as well as changing the way that we look at English and
Mm-hmm.
being able to see the diversity because it's a process. Because for so long, we've been taught that English is this one thing, and English is a very powerful metaphor, which I'll get into more when we talk about my story and Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
But people have very strong and fixed ideas about what English is and what English can be. And
Mm-hmm.
really, on that page, I want to showcase different narratives and English spoken in different places, as well as some of these issues to seeing the diversity. Because a lack of diversity, it's something that's constructed. It's not by chance that we don't see certain faces or places or voices.
Mm-hmm.
So, sincerely teaching, that page is to teach teachers how to bring this perspective and method to their students, how to understand the different layers of discrimination
Mm-hmm.
and the ideas, like how to deconstruct those ideas around the English language so that we can actually include ourselves, our students, and the world in the way we teach English,
Mm-hmm.
as well as tips on just how to be more authentic and feel more authentic as a teacher. I
Mm-hmm.
think as teachers, we have a lot of pressure on us to be perfect, to
Yeah.
be a certain way, to have this great performance. And at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily make your teaching more effective. It's just something like this pressure we all have on us.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's also support for that, and where other teachers can find like minded teachers. Because as we all know, we're both content creators on social media. And when you're not doing like the typical content, it can be hard to be found. It can be
Yeah.
hard to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
It's really generic stuff that gets a lot of the views and follows and likes.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody wants to do that. So it's also a place where like minded teachers can find each other, support each other, and see content that they actually want to see, and not be bombarded with some of the more like simplistic or cringe content that we're
Mm-hmm.
overexposed to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great service, guys. Do yourself a favor. Go follow Diaspora English Learning, right?
Yes.
And sincerely teaching English. I feel you almost said Isu again.
Almost. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Almost. All right. Go check it out, guys. All right. Good. So we're done with the BS and success. Did you like this game? How did you find it?
Oh, I loved it. I
Good.
think I think this is a great way to bring these topics, because they're important things to talk about for both students and teachers and English speakers in general. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a game makes it more approachable, because sometimes, I don't know, sometimes it's not that easy or that pleasurable to just jump into the topic like, okay, let's talk about all the things that are wrong in ELT. Like, it's fun to
Yeah.
play a game.
Yeah. All right, good. And thanks for joining and playing the
You
game with me.
pause.
All right. So let's talk about your story, because I was watching your webinar and you showed a picture of your class. Like, I don't know how old you were
Yes.
back then, but I found like so interesting, like, because you brought that topic about the multiculturalism, like different
Hmm.
backgrounds, and you said something
Hmm.
that really stuck with me. Like, we were like, when you talk about your friends, you said like something along these lines, like we were all there learning together, communicating in English, but we had like different food, different backgrounds. And how was for you, how important that experience was for you, like as a child, like growing up in Canada in general? How was it?
Yes. So, it was so important and fundamental, and it's something that I really cherish, especially as I've gotten older, I really loved my childhood environment, and I think it was something very unique that maybe a lot of people don't get to experience. So I'm very grateful for it. I kind of lost myself in the emotion.
It's
What
so
was the
good.
rest of the question? Because I'm
No,
just
like,
like,
how was important was this, like,
oh,
diversity,
okay,
multiculturalism, like for you as a child,
yeah.
like growing up in Canada?
Yeah. So, as I said, I loved it. And I think it was really formative for me and even helpful today for me as a teacher. So, what it did for me is it normalized diversity. I was immersed in a multicultural, multi-ethnic environment from very young, where just hearing different accents, meeting people from different backgrounds. It was just something my brain easily adapted to, which is like, which was kind of surprising sometimes when students are like, "Oh, I don't understand this accent or that accent. Like, it's so hard." It really made me aware of the fact that it's not really normal for a lot of people to hear so many different accents. But
Mm-hmm.
I think growing up, especially being so young in that kind of environment, it does something to your brain where you have an ability to really like adapt easily
Mm-hmm.
within the same environment. And it's also required. I think living here, you're going to be like most of the time in a multicultural environment. You're going to meet people from different backgrounds, different accents. And this is something that can be learned as you expose yourself to different kinds of English. But I think growing up in that kind of environment, it's really helpful to develop that skill.
Mhm.
And yeah, I hope that
Good.
answers the question.
Nice. Yeah, it does. It did. Actually, so I got a question now. Like, what got your interest first? Like, was it Brazil or samba? So you got interested for samba or Brazil first, or they came at the same time? How was
Good question. I'm trying to think. What came first? I think samba. I think
S-
samba.
Samba came first?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
how you remember how did it start? Like, was that a specific song that you listened to and you really enjoyed? Was it like something that you watched? Like, how your passion for samba started?
So, like the first kind of Brazilian music that I heard was bossa nova because it's
Yep.
more like internationalized and
Mm-hmm.
it's more yeah, like you're more likely to hear that here than
Yeah.
like than like real samba, right? But then yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I really, really like the music and I love to research things. And when I researched it, I was like, oh, it actually comes from samba and it comes from samba schools and a lot of I don't even know the word in English, composers.
Composers,
Um,
yes.
yeah, a lot of the composers were also from samba schools that were writing the lyrics, and that it was kind of like a watered down, whitewashed version of samba, but
Yeah.
that was kind of like the first thing that I heard, you know? So I didn't know any better at first, but then I got to learn and I was like, okay, samba, I love samba. I started taking, dance classes, and that was like amazing for me. I just loved the dance. And then I went to Brazil, and then I was like, okay, this is not enough. Like I kept, traveling to Brazil over like over I think like maybe like 3 or 4 years,
Oh.
doing like yeah, some trips with some other dance groups where we did like classes, we were part of carnival and stuff, but I felt like it was just scratching the surface.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, I gotta do more. So then I went for 3 months and I was like, I think I could do this longer. And then when I decided I wanted to make some life changes, I was like, I think I'm gonna go to Brazil and just totally immerse myself and pursue that, while I'm figuring out, what kind of career change I want to make. And at the same time, I started teaching English, and then that took off as well.
Okay, but before we jump into the Brazil topic, I really want to
Yes,
talk more about samba because I like samba
yes,
too.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, who are your favorite artists? Like, what do you listen to when it comes to samba? So, what do you like to listen? So, what are the artists that you enjoy the most?
So I really like to I really like the actually like the drumming a lot. That's what I
Okay.
really like going to
Okay.
the samba schools and
All
hearing
right.
like the different schools.
Okay.
That's what really drew me to it because at
Mm-hmm.
first I didn't even know what the lyrics I didn't even know
Okay.
what the lyrics were saying at the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
beginning, right? So I would follow a lot of the samba schools like Mangueira, Salgueiro, who else? What's the other one? São Clemente,
Yeah.
you know,
Beija-Flor.
Beija-Flor,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
as well as some of the samba schools in São Paulo as well. And I actually ended up ironically, even though I started listening to, the Rio samba schools, I ended up in São Paulo for it's a crazy story, but I ended up in São Paulo. But
Okay.
the first artist that I really really loved was Martinho da Vila.
He's good.
His music
He's
as
good.
well as his enredos,
Yeah.
from Vila Isabel. Yeah, that's one of my favorite artists and one of the first artists I was really like I really really loved.
Good.
Yeah.
And he sounds so calming, like his songs, like it's the way he sings is so calming, so relaxing, like the way he like sings his songs, right? But all right,
Yes. And
so
it's like a conversation.
oh yeah, they tell stories, right? They tell stories, and some of these stories are very funny, actually. So it's so good. How about
Hmm.
Georgie Ben? Do you like Georgie Ben?
Yes, yes,
All
I
right,
do.
because my son is named after Georgie Ben. So his name is
Really?
George. Yeah, yeah, because of Georgie
Nice.
Ben. Yeah,
Hmm.
because I don't know if I if you know that, but I lived in the US for a while, so I played college soccer there.
Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah, yeah, and I had some
Nice.
Brazilian friends, and
Mhm.
I actually had one of them in the podcast, Gabriel. If you want to check his episode, we talk a little bit about that. We lived in a very
Okay.
small town, like
Mm.
7,000 people, and we
Oh
were
wow.
like 10 Brazilians, and we would get together every weekend, and like they play. Like Gabriel played the drums. We had another Brazilian who played the guitar, and we would like sing songs, and some songs that I didn't even know like before. That's crazy because I grew up listening to some samba, but most of the songs and the history of the movement, the samba movement and everything I learned from those guys,
Mhm.
right? So it was just like so many artists like Cartola, Jorge Ben,
Mhm.
Candeia, like Martinho da Vila, obviously, like Originais do
Mhm.
Samba. So all of those
Mhm.
things, and yeah, that's why I asked about your
Yeah.
favorite artists. But
Exalta Samba, Raça
oh
Negra.
yeah, that's classic. Those are
Yes,
classic.
yes.
All right, but let's jump into Brazil. Your Brazilian experience. So you actually, I didn't know that, but you actually traveled to Brazil more than once. I thought like you moved there
Yes.
for a while, but that
Mhm.
was just the last time, right? Like the last time you stayed
Yes.
for longer.
Yes. So I made some frequent trips between 2016 and 2008. Wait, it had no 2014 because I'm like, no, it was not just 2 years. Between 2014 and 2018, I had made like a few trips there, some group trips that were organized around carnival and dance classes. And then I also did like a 3 month trip on my own, which was great because I planned to like I wanted to visit a bunch of cities as well as do dance training, but I started in São Paulo, and it just seemed like everything like was working for me in São Paulo. Like I found a great teacher, samba school, like so many you know things were just going really well. I just felt like, why am I gonna leave? Because
Hmm.
I was like, okay, I'll start, working with teachers in Sao Paulo, then teachers in Rio, and then I realized like it's better to develop a relationship with one like teacher
Hmm.
and possibly one school, and then rather than like just going to a bunch and maybe not
Hmm.
making so much progress,
Hmm.
so that's how I ended up in São Paulo. I just feel like I have good luck there, and I'm
Good.
like I'm not gonna jinx it, So
Hmm.
I didn't really end up doing too much training in Rio because I just started to make more connections in Sao Paulo, and
Hmm.
also with teaching, it was a great place to be teaching. So I felt like I had the best of both worlds. I felt like I had my, city life,
There you
my
go.
samba life, my teaching life, and Sao Paulo's really my vibe. Like I'm a big city kind of person.
Okay.
I know, like, and I know I can drive to the beach if I need to go to the beach or take a bus. Like I don't need to live by the beach. I know
Hmm.
other people like they're like, no, like Rio, like you gotta be by the beach. Like, how can you be in like a concrete jungle? Trust me, I heard it all. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just like for me, for my energy, it was good.
Yeah, I'm from São Paulo. There is some magic there. I can tell. I miss that cities. Like sometimes I just miss that like sitting in one of those squares. Like in São Paulo there are many squares. We call it like praças.
Right.
You know,
Hmm.
sitting in one of those and just looking the movement, like the guy making the
Yes.
barbecue, some other guy selling CDs and DVDs and playing some forró, and some people waiting for the bus, some dogs crossing the street, like that things. Sometimes I look around here and I say, where's everything? Like I miss those things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It must get real quiet there.
Oh yeah, especially like Saturday afternoon or like Sunday afternoon. Like tell me about it in São Paulo.
Hmm.
How it looks like. It's like people coming and
Oh my
going and
gosh, Sundays, Saturdays. I used to love to go to Paulista Avenue on
wow.
Sundays and just like
Yeah.
walk up and down. I used to like to go like to there's this event called Samba do Sol in Vila Madalena. They'd have live
Wow.
samba. But also my samba school rehearsal was on Sundays, so like a lot of times Sundays I was like getting ready for rehearsal and going to rehearsals. I
Okay.
mean, like Saturday nights too, nightlife was so good. Like
Oh yeah.
going to like Villa Madalena or where else would I go? Even like Zona Norte.
All right.
There's so many places. There's so many places to go, and when you go, it's just like it's just so alive. It's just that
Yeah.
that feeling.
Yeah.
Where else would I go?
And where did you live in
Just
São
yeah, the
Paulo exactly? Like what was the neighborhood?
I lived in Aclimação.
Okay. All right. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
kind of south down.
Actually, I
Yeah.
I lived in a couple places. Like I spent a good amount of time in Aclimação and also Butantã, Zona West.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. So I
yeah,
used to live. I
which was
was.
kind of boring for
Oh
me.
yeah, Butanta. Yeah, it's more quiet. It's quiet there, like
Yeah.
comparing to some other places. Yeah, because
Mhm.
I'm from the east side. I don't know if you had the chance to go to the east side of São Paulo.
Yes.
Like
Yes,
I'm
I have.
from I'm from Itaquera, like
Okay. Yeah.
extreme, extreme, extreme. And
Mhm.
yeah. So that's why I asked. Like I was just curious about the neighborhoods that you have the chance to
Ah,
experience.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Like in the beginning, I stayed with a friend who lived in Zona Leste.
All right. Good.
Like what station was it?
Tatuapé?
I'm try- No, not Tatuapé. Further, more. Um, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. I
Penha.
think it starts with S. Peña. Peña. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's where. That's where I
Nice.
started. Yep.
So you're local. You know the neighborhoods. You know everything.
Yes.
Good. Nice.
Yes. But I like convenience. I want to be able to just like get up and walk
Oh yeah.
everywhere. I'm just
Yeah.
like lazy like that.
All right. So we talked a little bit about your Brazilian experience, but let's talk about Portuguese because you already mentioned you have some words that you like it better in Portuguese. Is
Hmm.
is that what you said?
Some expressions. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And I want to start like learning those expressions for you. So what are those expressions if you can share some?
Okay. Like for
Go
example,
for
with
it.
okay,
There's no restrictions here. You can say whatever you want.
okay. Um like for example, the concept of dar satisfação. Like I like
Okay.
the fact that it's like you don't have to leave someone feeling satisfied. Like that's
Okay.
their problem. I just like the idea that like the idea of making someone feel satisfied like you don't have
Yeah.
to
You
you
don't
know
you don't need to please anyone.
exactly. But I think like in English it just doesn't. Yeah, you could say you don't have to please anyone, but it's just like some people it's like they want you to do something
Yeah.
until they feel satisfied. It's like
Yes. Yes.
being satisfied, it's like a
Yeah.
very specific thing.
Mhm.
It's one
Yeah.
thing to say like, oh, they want it their way, but it's like when someone wants to be satisfied, it's like it's not specific. It's just
Mhm.
completely like whatever they feel like they want from you, and
It's
I
never
like that
enough.
expression.
It's like it's never enough. They want something more. You don't need to dar satisfação. It's like okay, whatever. Like
Yeah, they don't have to feel satiated. You can do whatever needs to be done. You can do the right thing, but they don't have to feel like, okay, like I feel completely satisfied with the situation. And like,
more
yeah, the
expressions.
other expression, yes, the other expression is like using when someone says quando a pessoa fala que tem preguiça de alguma coisa, de alguma pessoa,
Oh yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
it's
Okay,
like you
like a
it's like
topic.
it's like you care so yeah.
Yeah, someone is
It's
talking
like
about something.
you
Oh, preguiça, preguiça.
yeah, it's like you it's like you don't even want to put in like you don't even want to put in the effort. You're just so like it's like you're just no, I actually feel lazy to deal
Hmm.
with this.
Yeah,
Like I love that expression
and we
because
don't
it's just
have
like
We don't have anything like this in English, right? I'm trying to think about something. Maybe
I think
I don't know. Not I'm
maybe you like I think it might be something like you can't be bothered, or you
hmm.
can't deal with it,
Yeah.
or like nowadays people say I can't,
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
just can't, or I can't with
Wh-
this person, or
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
can't with this topic, like they're just or you're done, or you can't stand something.
Yeah.
It's more active, you know,
Hmm.
rather than like I feel like preguiça is more passive. It's like you're just like you're like kind of chill about it. You're not chill about it, but you're just like the thing or the person or the situation like made you feel like
Lazy.
lazy, like I can't even bother to like
Yeah.
deal with you, like it's just, but you're not like I don't know, I just feel like it's a really good expression.
And you not only mastered the way you say it, but also the facial expression. I can see my sister in yourself right now, like the way
Really?
you, yeah, the way you say, like, oh my god,
Oh my, so that was another thing, the hand movements that people do in Brazil,
oh yeah.
like they're Brazilian, like so I didn't understand when
Uh-huh.
people would be like, I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh
that,
yeah.
or like
Yeah.
we have different hand movements
Yeah.
in Canadian English for different things, like when you say like you're gonna drink like alcohol, people usually do
Hmm.
this, right?
Hmm.
But in Brazil people do this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's different.
So I was like, I had that was something I had to learn, and
Uh-huh.
that's not something you're gonna learn like in a book,
No, no. It's just like experiencing.
hmm
And my next question would be like, how difficult was it to learn Portuguese? Like, and if you had like any specific strategy, like to immerse yourself in the language and learn it quickly, or how was the experience overall, like learning Portuguese?
So, I want to preface what I'm saying because I love languages, I love learning, and I had a background like in French and Spanish, which really helped me learn Portuguese.
Oh,
So,
good.
learning Portuguese, I enjoyed it, but there were times where like the times that were difficult is when I had like no choice but to speak Portuguese. Like a lot of the stuff I had to do with dance and samba schools and stuff like that, it was like strictly in Portuguese, and I had like I guess like a lot of other situations, but it was kind of like sink or swim,
Mm-hmm.
so that was that was challenging, like, and I had to guess some words. Like I remember once someone asked me they asked me if I wanted, they say agua refrigerante. I thought
Hmm.
refrigerante was cold water.
Oh,
So I
really? Oh,
yeah,
man.
I don't know. I thought I just guessed. I never would have
Uh-huh.
thought like
Uh-huh.
refrigerante was like a soft drink,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
like Coke or something.
But
Because it sounds like,
it's kind of when people like the first time I went abroad and the waiters came to me and said, "Would you like some soda?" And I said, "No soda, Coke, please."
oh,
But
you paused. Sorry, they said what?
like the waiters came and said, "Would you like like some soda?" Or I don't remember exactly the question, and I said, "No soda, Coke, please." It's
Okay,
basically
that
this.
makes sense.
You
That
know what I
makes
mean?
sense
Like,
though,
yeah,
because soda is its own drink. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I could see that.
yeah.
So like I was like, yeah, I'll take a refrigerante, right? And it was Coke, and I was like, oh my god.
I
And
wanted water.
I don't drink soft drinks, but I drank it that time, and like I don't really drink Coke or anything like that.
All right.
But you were saying how was it learning Portuguese? I think like in the beginning it felt like, oh, it felt easy. It felt like, oh my gosh, but it's like the more you advance in something, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, like I I was making a lot of mistakes, or I didn't know as much as I thought, like, but overall I do enjoy learning it, and I think
Mm-hmm.
one of the benefits of like learning Portuguese, and especially in Brazil, is like people are very like welcoming of
Yeah.
you speaking the language. There's, people try to understand and help,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't always the case in English.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoy learning Portuguese. I'm still learning.
Okay.
I take classes, to improve. I have a teacher, I have a Portuguese
Nice.
teacher. Because I still use Portuguese a lot, actually,
Mm-hmm.
because I have some students, sometimes they don't speak enough English yet, or even just like some collaborations
Mm-hmm.
we speak in Portuguese. So I like to just improve on
Yeah.
that. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, it did. We actually can think about some content that we can collaborate in Portuguese down the road. If you're up to, we can think about something, because I'm pretty sure like I've heard of some of your Portuguese and it sounds beautiful. So yeah, maybe we can have some chat in Portuguese.
Thank you. Yes, for sure. I'm always up for it.
Good. And
Mhm.
like my next question would be like if you see like big differences when it comes to culture, like comparing Canada to Brazil, what would be the biggest differences that, like relationships, like you mentioned, like how Brazilian people would be welcoming to you, like trying to support
Mhm.
you when you try to speak, but what are the big differences that you see between the cultures?
Mm. So, it's a good question. I think, like, when it comes to culture, it's a big conversation, and
Mm-hmm.
it's I can say a couple things, but it's only really scratching the surface. And I truly learned that by living there. I think, yeah, it's hard to boil it down to a few points, but I could say a few points, like, for the sake
Mm-hmm.
of asking the question. So I think in terms of um meeting people, connecting with people, it's definitely like people are more open in Brazil. I think in Canada people are more closed, but at the same time, it's not like the door never opens. I think it's just different. Like,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in Brazil, maybe you'll meet someone like really quickly, but your friendship might not be that long. Whereas, like, in Canada, I notice it might take a bit longer to get to know someone, but then you'll probably be friends with them for like a longer, like a
Mm-hmm.
long period of time, if you're like, if you continue to build that rapport and connection with someone. That's something I noticed kind of more off the bat. There's so many things, but I'm trying to think like where to start. I think that one thing that was kind of like challenging for me to understand is sometimes, like, supposedly, North American culture is more direct, Brazil is less direct,
Mm-hmm.
and it's true. I think the way you say things in Brazil is like really important, whereas, like, here it's people want you to get to the point, but then you can't be like that too much, or else it would be like impolite. But then sometimes in Brazil people can be quite direct depending on what it is,
Mm-hmm.
like, compared to Canada, where people, like,
Mm-hmm.
would not be that direct. Like, people say like what they think, whether you want to hear it or not.
Yeah.
So I would say those things are different, but it's I think it's just there's so many different points. It's hard
Yeah.
to really like say, okay, these are the differences. And I don't really like to simplify
Yeah.
culture because it's not simple.
Yeah, and even like if we talk about cities, right? Depending on the city, you like some people
Mhm.
uh we can really see differences, like even like here, like in North Bay.
Mhm.
I don't know, like sometimes when I go to Toronto, I see like people were the way they, like, I don't know if it's because it's a busier city, always go go go, like people were
Mhm.
always in a rush, it seems like, similar to
Mhm.
Sao Paulo, right? Is like when you go to,
Mhm.
I don't know if you had the chance, but if you go to Sao Paulo countryside, people are more,
Mhm.
I won't say friendly, but they're not in a rush. They take more time. They stop and talk to you, and they
Mhm.
want to hear the stories and everything. And I find like in some places it's a little bit different. I don't
Mm.
know.
actually, how would you that's a good point you bring about cities, because you're also in the countryside as
Yeah.
well. You're up north.
Hmm.
How do you find, with that pace, how do you find people? Are people more open and friendly there? Because that's a place I've never been to.
It's a tricky question, right? So I would say like
Okay.
people were, I wouldn't say open, but like for
Okay.
example, when I have my daily interactions with people, they're usually friendly. But it's not that kind of friendly, like they don't seem very, not everyone, but in general is like, hey, how are you? Oh, I'm good. How are you? I'm good. Just that
Mm.
small talk, it
Okay.
happens a
Okay.
lot. you know I
Hmm.
have those small talks with many people, like basically every people that I meet, I have those interactions, which is
Hmm.
good. But I find really hard to have like deep conversations. I don't know if,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know, maybe I'm not interesting enough. I don't know, or maybe people like they are not interested. But I don't know, I
Mm-hmm.
find it difficult to build those like strong relationships and deep relationships in here. I don't know, it seems like some people, they are just not open to that. They are just so
That's
accustomed with the people they have around them, the community they built, you know. So I
mm-hmm.
feel like sometimes it's hard to break this
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
wall
Mm-hmm.
and be more involved, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
This is an Yes, I do, and this is an important part. So in Brazil, people are more vulnerable, people are more open, people are more
Mhm.
comfortable with emotions.
Mhm.
Even like you're a man. Brazilian men are a lot more emotionally expressive. Here
Mhm.
it's not like that.
Mhm.
And that's a huge difference between the two countries, and it's hard to connect with people that are not open. And a
Mhm.
lot of people here suffer from loneliness, or they don't, especially men, like they don't have a lot of friends and bonds because of this culture of being like emotionally shut down and emotionally closed. That's
Mhm.
that's a huge difference between the two countries, and I can definitely see that. I think people are more, especially Canada, even compared to the United States. Like in the US, people are a bit more open, expressive,
Mhm.
friendly. Like Canada specifically, people are quite, I think they're socially conservative,
Mhm.
where, they don't want to offend anyone. They
Yeah.
don't want to say the wrong thing. People don't want to talk about politics. Now
Mhm.
it's a little different. I think
Yeah.
things are quite polarized. So people will talk a lot more than in the past, but
Mhm.
it's kind of like, yeah, people aren't really real. um
Yeah. I think you
and that's
got to the
like,
point.
yeah, and I think the more well off people are as well, like the less open they are, especially
Mhm.
to other people. I notice like a lot of immigrants, like they'll connect with each other, they'll
Yeah.
meet up, they'll help each other, but it's, yeah, I think among like I don't know if you would say, I don't know how I don't know what this part of the population would be called. I don't want to say non-immigrants, but I guess I would say like, yeah, because they could not, yeah, Canadians. I don't like to say, because there's
Yeah.
immigrants that are Canadians
I
too,
got the
right?
idea. I got the idea. I know.
You know what I mean? But people are
Yeah.
just like, and to a certain degree, it's like required for survival. But I think it's definitely a thing here, and I think it would be hard to adjust. You
Mhm.
know, for someone who's used to being more open. I mean, even though people say the same things about São Paulo from different parts of Brazil, say São Paulo is like this, but I think even comparing São Paulo to Canada, to Toronto, it can be difficult. But I think I say to people what I usually say to people, like students, like be open to different people. You might connect with other immigrants from different countries. Like I
Mhm.
think sometimes there's like an idealized person and lifestyle. It's like, oh, you've made it if you've penetrated into like a Canadian friend group, or you're in this Canadian context, and like it doesn't make you a better person because of who you're around or who you've been able to make friends with. Like, people just are not that open, and the people I know are people I know from university or from work, but not necessarily people who are like stopping to say hello and to connect and like to say, hey, like let's get to know each other, let's get drinks, let's see a movie, you know. I mean, people also have groups,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, there's meetup.com and stuff. They have the app too, where people with certain hobbies will get together, but I don't think those hobby groups really form deep bonds depending on what it is. Well, I think like dance, when I did dance classes and stuff, I met a lot of people. I made friends with that as well. That was like a good way to meet people, but I think it was mostly Canadians that I met. No, I met I'm trying to think. Mostly, I would say it was like mostly Canadians. Like Canada's quite segregated. Like, I mean, people have their groups, their cliques, you know, people
Yeah.
from this country stick with each other, or people from this race stick with each other, and people who work this kind of job, make this kind of money, stick together. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
everyone's kind of divided up,
Yeah.
and I think it could feel quite isolating.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still trying to find my group, like, and be more involved. But
Hmm.
yeah. All right. So I think it's been like a great conversation and like so many things
Yes.
that you shared, but I really want to hear from you more about this idea of taking English outside the box. So as
Okay.
an English learner and as an English teacher, how can we do that? So if you can elaborate a little bit about this concept that you've been talking, like taking English
Yes.
outside the box.
Yes, taking English out of the box. So that was the name of the webinar that I did in August of this year, 2024. And really, taking English out of the box is breaking down like the walls, which is breaking down the barriers that stop us from seeing English for what it really is, which is extremely diverse. But we don't see diverse faces and places and voices, and it's learning how to deconstruct that and showing different narratives, showing um, different people, voices speaking. So to me, that's taking English out of the box, as well as being able to see the box and see like the metaphors. You know, I think Friends is such a I like to mention Friends, but you know, Friends is like the quintessential example that a lot
Yeah.
of English speakers are given, and it doesn't reflect
No.
reality. You know, it's
Mm-mm.
like six upper middle class white people in
Mm-hmm.
New York who like hang around a coffee shop, and like that's just not real life.
Mm-mm.
But you know, it's focusing on a particular group of people, a particular lifestyle that doesn't really reflect learners.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being able to see things like that for what it is, you know, that this is not actually real life. This is a Hollywood stage,
Yeah.
and it's um not inclusive at all. And this is not like real life. If you walk into a coffee shop, you know, it's not going to look like that, and there's going to
No.
be people working really hard
Oh
and
yeah.
not necessarily having time to just hang out and wait for people to show up to a coffee
Mm-hmm.
shop, like,
Yeah.
you know. But I think a lot of times we're just so used to seeing this stuff that we don't stop and actually think like, does this even make sense, you know? And what is the message that we're sending to learners when we show a world that we don't show people who are working, we don't show Black people, we don't show Asian people, we don't show um you know, non-native speakers, we
Mm-hmm.
or when there's non-native speakers or people with accents that are less common, why is there a laugh track in the background? Like, why is
Mm-hmm.
it supposed to be funny,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when we hear things that deviate from that? Or why do, you know, characters of different backgrounds, why are they like the comedian of the show and not just a normal character, you know? So taking English out of the box is taking it out of those confines and allowing it to be what it is. so that we can all belong.
There you go. I think we all have some good points to reflect on. And I mean, like I told you guys right in the beginning, so do yourself a favor, go follow Diaspora English Learning and sincerely teaching English. So guys, go check it out. It's great content out there. And Kay, I just want to thank you once again. Like it was really meaningful, and like having the opportunity to talk to you, and like after a long time. So I just want to thank you again for your time, and like appreciate you. And yeah, so if you have any
You're
final message to the people listening to the podcast, go ahead. If you wanna,
Thank you
yeah,
for having me. Thank you. I enjoyed having this conversation. I'm a fan of real conversations too. I love what you're doing. I love your page. I love your podcast that, you're highlighting, because I think you have mostly, or if not all, Brazilian guests, right?
yeah, just Brazilian guests, but now we
Mm-hmm.
have you, the
I'm the
most Brazilian
exception.
Canadian girl.
Yes, yes, and I think it's really important for since you have a Brazilian audience, for people to hear people like them speaking English, talking about their experiences, valuing voices like theirs and not always looking up to someone.
Yeah,
So I think you're a very good example
thank
for
you.
students and learners and teachers.
All right.
So yes, follow Diaspora English Learning, follow Sincerely Teaching English, follow Papo Fluente,
And there's something coming up, right?
follow it all.
You wanna talk about that, like project that I was watching your stories, and you were talking about that, like some sort of a project that
Yes.
like you guys like are working to empower people like to be confident when they speak English. Can you talk about it?
Yes, 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 yes. So it's actually starting next Wednesday, October
Okay.
9th. At 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, myself and Marjorie Pimentel. She's a Brazilian psychotherapist, and she's both certified in Canada and the US. In Canada and Brazil. She's a
Okay.
psychologist in Brazil and a psychotherapist in Canada.
Nice.
And we're creating a workshop to talk about some of the issues that happen when it comes to speaking English, specifically in Canada, when you're in an environment dominated by native speakers and you're a non-native speaker, and you're, either trying to get a job or on the job,
Hmm.
or just the different emotional challenges that come with this journey of living in Canada and speaking English. A lot of people, kind of stay hidden because they don't feel secure about their English.
Hmm.
And I do my best to bring awareness to these things, but not everything can be dealt with in the classroom, and not everything us English teachers can deal with. So we've come together to put together these workshops to look at some of the most common things that stop people from speaking English or even studying and developing their English, such as perfectionism, and oh my gosh, autocobrança. I
Hmm.
don't even remember how to say that in English.
I don't know.
Like self-criticism,
Like pressure.
as well. Yeah, I guess self-criticism, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because like auto, yeah. So as well as how to even know what you need to do to improve, because so
Hmm.
many people, like, they come to me and they're like, I need to improve my English, I need to improve my accent, I need to improve my pronunciation, I need to improve my grammar. But they might jump into a course that's like, I'm going to teach you all the pronunciation tricks, and then they do the course but they don't feel more confident
Hmm.
because they're not actually working on the root issue of why they're not feeling confident speaking English. And then I want to also help people understand the difference between, okay, what can we work on and what do we just need to accept and love and embrace about ourselves.
Hmm.
Because, you know, um, I'm not saying that we should throw away English classes and we should just, forget about working on our English and just, there's things you can work on and improve all the time. but then some things you're going to gain through working on yourself actually, and not
Hmm.
English. So we're going to talk about what makes the difference in your English, and also what are the things emotionally and psychologically we can work on that will help that process of learning, development, and actually speaking English. So that was long. That was a long
Hmm.
answer.
No, but
But
that's great, and that's great information. And I think it sounds perfect. Like I've been living some tough times at work, so I think it's gonna be a good
mm,
opportunity. So I will probably sign up for that. And you listening to this episode, so we you have the chance because I will drop the episode on Sunday, and the workshop will be on Wednesday, right? So if you're listening
yes.
to this episode, don't waste your time, go sign up, go check it out. Sincerely Teaching English is there where they should go to sign up?
Diaspora English Learning,
Oh, all right. So go to
because that one's for
Diaspora
students.
English Learning and sign
Yeah.
up. And yeah. All right, guys. So thank you very much for listening. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, one thing I want to say is it's going to be in Portuguese,
Oh,
because we
good.
want people to feel comfortable, to feel like they can say whatever they need to say. It's not an English test. It's
Nice.
not the point is to be able to like connect and talk through the topics.
Okay.
So it's going to be in Portuguese. So no matter your level as well,
Good.
you're going to be able to benefit from it.
Here. All right, good. This is your opportunity to hear Teacher K speaking Portuguese beautifully. All right, guys? So, and sign up and check it out. All right. So, thank you very much, K, again for being here and for those listening to this episode. And we talk soon. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.